Matthew 13, verse 8 to 23. The parable of the sower explained. In Matthew 13, Jesus begins speaking to the crowds in parables, revealing truths about the kingdom of heaven. After telling the parable of the sower to the multitude, he turns to his disciples and explains its meaning. In verses 18 to 23, the Lord unveils the significance of the seed and the various soils upon which it falls. The explanation reveals the nature of the word of the kingdom and the different responses that appeared among those hearing the message during his earthly ministry. Jesus begins, "Therefore, hear the parable of the sower. The seed is identified as the word of the kingdom. This message concerned the long-awaited reign of God promised throughout the law and the prophets. The proclamation of that kingdom was central to the ministry of John the Baptist, Jesus himself, and later the apostles. The announcement declared that the time of fulfillment had arrived, and that God was bringing his covenant purposes with Israel to completion. The sower spreads the seed broadly. The emphasis of the parable is not on the sower, but on the soil. The soils represent the hearts of those within Israel who heard the proclamation of the kingdom during that generation. The seed by the wayside. Jesus explains, "When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is he who received seed by the wayside. The wayside describes hardened ground. Seed falling upon it cannot penetrate the soil. Likewise, many who heard the message of the kingdom remained hardened in heart. The religious leadership and many within the nation resisted the proclamation that the promised reign of God had drawn near. Because the message did not take root, it was quickly taken away. The adversary works through blindness and unbelief, preventing the word from being received. Throughout the Gospels, this resistance is seen repeatedly as leaders accuse Jesus, reject his authority, and oppose his works. The seed on stony places. Jesus continues, "But he who received the seed on stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while." In this case, the soil is shallow. Beneath the thin layer of earth lies stone, preventing deep roots from forming. When the sun rises, the plant withers. During the ministry of Jesus, many responded with initial enthusiasm. Crowds gathered, marveling at his teaching and miracles. Yet when opposition arose, or when the implications of the message became difficult, many turned away. Their reception of the word was temporary because it lacked depth. Jesus says that when tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, they immediately stumble. The proclamation of the kingdom created division within Israel. Those who identified with the message often faced rejection from religious authorities and social pressure from their communities. The seed among thorns. Next, the Lord explains, "Now he who received seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this age and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful." Here the soil allows growth, but competing plants overwhelm the seed. The thorns represent the anxieties and pursuits that dominated the lives of many hearers. First-century Judea existed within a world filled with social, political, and economic pressures. Many were consumed with survival, wealth, status, and the concerns of the present age. These distractions prevented the word of the kingdom from producing its intended result. The message of the kingdom called for a reorientation of expectation and identity. Yet for many, attachment to present concerns suffocated the seed before it could bear fruit. The seed on good ground. Finally, Jesus describes the good soil. "But he who received seed on the good ground is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and produces, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. This soil receives the seed deeply. The word takes root, grows, and produces an abundant harvest." Among the people of Israel, there were those who truly received the message of the kingdom. The disciples themselves, along with many others, heard and understood the significance of what God was accomplishing through Christ. In them, the word produced fruit. The varying yields, 30, 60, and 100-fold, indicate differing degrees of visible outcome, yet all arise from the same receptive soil. The focus remains on the effectiveness of the seed when it finds a prepared heart. The nature of the word of the kingdom. At the center of the parable is the word itself. The seed possesses life and power. Its effectiveness does not originate in human effort, but in the message being proclaimed. When received, it produces the harvest intended by God. The word of the kingdom proclaimed that the promises spoken through the prophets were reaching their fulfillment. God was establishing the long-anticipated reign through the Messiah. The arrival of this kingdom marked the climax of the covenant story that had unfolded throughout Israel's history. Within that generation, the message spread widely. Some rejected it outright, others embraced it briefly before falling away. Still others allowed competing concerns to suffocate it. Yet many received it and bore fruit as the kingdom message advanced through the ministry of Christ and his apostles. The harvest of the kingdom. The imagery of harvest echoes themes found throughout the Hebrew scriptures. The prophets spoke of a coming time when God would gather a people and complete his covenant purposes. Jesus' explanation of the parable places that expectation within the present reality of his ministry. The kingdom message was being sown throughout Israel. The differing responses revealed the condition of the hearts hearing it. The harvest would ultimately reveal those in whom the word had truly taken root. Thus, in Matthew 13:18-23, Jesus explains that the proclamation of the kingdom acts like seeds scattered across a field. The decisive factor is the soil that receives it. Where the word is understood and embraced, it produces a harvest in keeping with the life contained within the seed.